Welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking some truly fascinating source material on human behavior and psychology. We're looking at a topic that is explicitly tailored for all you introverts out there, the deep thinkers, and anyone who's just trying to completely optimize their mental energy. If you've ever felt misunderstood simply because you wanted to stay in on a Friday night, or if large crowds just completely wipe you out, well, you're in exactly the right place. We're going to explore the real, compelling reasons why some of the absolute smartest people among us strategically choose to keep their circles small.
Okay, let's dive into this. Loneliness isn't always a problem. Sometimes it's a strategy. I love that. We're using this exact hook from our source material because it just immediately shatters the whole stigma around being alone. Right? Since we were kids, we're basically conditioned to think that choosing a quiet night by yourself means you're defeated or that you're somehow missing out. But what if it's actually a masterstroke of self-preservation? What if being alone isn't a symptom of some bigger problem, but literally your most powerful strategy for success?
Part 1. Solitude versus isolation. Let's look at this crucial difference.
Society constantly, and mistakenly, equates being alone with being sad. Like you see someone eating lunch by themselves, and the automatic cultural assumption is, oh, they must be so miserable and lonely. We totally mix up the physical state of being alone with the emotional state of feeling disconnected. Now, what's really interesting here is how we can separate these two distinct experiences to understand how intelligent minds actually operate. On one hand, we have isolation, right? True loneliness. This is characterized by real emotional pain. It's completely unintentional. It's that horrible fundamental feeling of lacking a connection you desperately want. But on the other hand, look at solitude. Solitude is intentional empowerment. It's a highly strategic choice to step away from the noise of the world. It's not about being left out at all. It's about purposely opting out so you can tune back into yourself and recharge.
That brings us to part 2, your brain's energy, the biological why.
To really grasp why intelligent people make this strategic choice so often, we have to look at the biological and psychological why behind it all. It's not just a personality quirk. It comes down to a very real, finite resource, your brain's energy. Let's clearly define what happens when that tank runs empty. It's called social fatigue. This is the psychological exhaustion that introverts and intelligent individuals experience from excessive social stimulation. I want you to just think about that for a second. If you have ever come home from a networking event or a loud party and felt like you literally could not form another cohesive sentence, hey, you aren't being weird, you aren't antisocial, you are experiencing a documented psychological state. Your brain has simply hit its absolute limit on processing social input. Let's actually walk through the literal steps of how this brain energy gets drained, because the mechanics here are fascinating. Step 1, you're navigating a crowded environment. Your brain is constantly, subconsciously filtering out background noise, people moving around, visual clutter. Step 2, at the exact same time, you're actively processing complex social cues. We're talking microexpressions, subtle changes in tone of voice, body language. Put those two together, and you inevitably hit Step 3, a rapid, immense drain of your brain's energy battery. It completely explains why highly intelligent people, whose brains are basically in hyperdrive analyzing all this data anyway, need so much downtime just to get their energy levels back to baseline.
So, let's move on and see how this builds into part 3, the need for deep exchanges.
Because highly intelligent people have to practice such strict energy management, it completely dictates the specific kinds of conversations they're actually willing to have. When your social battery is a precious, finite commodity, you just can't afford to blow it on interactions that give you zero meaningful return on your investment. Which brings us directly to a super relatable question. Why is small talk so exhausting? Seriously, ask yourself that right now. Why does a 10-minute chat about the weather or what you eat for lunch feel infinitely more draining than a 3-hour, 2 a.m. conversation about a complex topic you're deeply passionate about? Well, it highlights the stark contrast between quality and quantity in our socializing. Small talk takes a massive amount of performative energy. The smiling, the nodding, the pretending to be engaged, but it delivers absolutely zero substance to feed your mind. The source material we're exploring makes this point crystal clear. Intelligent individuals require intellectual stimulation, not superficial chatter. Emotionally mature people fundamentally need deep, meaningful conversations to actually feel energized by an interaction. When you get into a deep discourse, you are firing up the higher-level processing areas of your brain, which feels incredibly rewarding and stimulating. Small talk? It just drains the battery without ever actually turning on the engine. To a deep thinker, it honestly just feels like a total waste of precious brain energy. This naturally leads us to part 4, the art of selective friendships, curating your circle. When you intimately understand your own energy limits and your craving for depth, the logical next step is the curation of a very specific, carefully limited social circle. You stop trying to be best friends with everyone in the room, and you start getting highly strategic about exactly who gets access to your time and your mind. And this brilliantly illustrates the key markers of how intelligent people pick their friends. Number one, they prioritize relationship quality over quantity every single time. They would way rather have 2 incredible friends than 20 casual acquaintances. Number two, they actively seek intellectual matches, people who can volley complex ideas back and forth. 3, they demand emotional maturity to intentionally avoid unnecessary drama. And finally, by doing all of this, they actively prevent that social fatigue we talked about earlier. Their friendships actually become a source of energy rather than a drain on it.
I really want this next point to sink in. Limiting your circle is a sign of emotional maturity, not antisocial behavior. Society might try to guilt you, telling you that having fewer friends means there's something wrong with you, but the psychological research tells a totally different, much more empowering story. Carefully curating your social habits, confidently saying no to obligations that just don't serve you, and keeping your inner circle small, that is a profound sign that you know exactly who you are, how your brain works, and what you actually need to thrive.
Part 5. Protecting your mental peace. The ultimate goal.
As we pull all these threads together, we reach the ultimate benefit of all these strategic social choices: protecting your mental peace. Managing your energy, skipping the exhausting small talk, and ruthlessly curating your friendships isn't about hiding away from the world in fear. Actually, it's the exact opposite. It's about actively building a mental fortress so that when you do choose to engage with the world, you can do it at your absolute best, with a completely clear mind and a full battery. So the crucial point is seeing the stark contrast here. On one side, you have draining social obligations, the crowded parties you dread going to, the superficial relationships you keep purely out of guilt or habit. But on the other side, you have intentional mental peace. This entire framework we've explored today is not about isolation. It is about aggressively and intelligently protecting your mental peace by aligning your social life directly with your biological and psychological needs.
I want to leave you with a provocative final thought today. Does your social circle protect your peace, or does it drain your energy? Take a moment today to truly reflect on your own social habits. Are you spending your precious brain energy wisely, or are you just giving it away to superficial chatter and draining obligations? Remember, your solitude is a brilliant strategy, and your mental energy is literally your most valuable asset. Protect it fiercely. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep optimizing that incredible mind of yours.